I've got Bernadette Kenny in front of me, is that right?
Yes.
And Bernadette, where were you born?
I was born at Middletown.
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 And what was your mother and father's name?
My father's name was Frank Kenny,
Frank.
the youngest of 10 children.
Right. And where was Frank from?
Frank was born in the Forge of Ardamine.
The Forge in Ardamine?
The Forge.
Where's the Forge in Ardamine?
On Forge, better not 200. One side of it is gone now,
Yeah.
but the side where the shop was is still there. People are living in that, and the Forge sign is up on it.
All right. Is that on the same side as the church?
Well, from here, it's past Ardamine Church.
Right. That's where the Forge was?
On the right-hand side.
Right. And that's where your father was born? And
My father was born the youngest of 10 children.
There?
There, he was.
And the youngest of 10 children there. Were you born there?
No, I was born on the Middletown Road.
Middletown Road?
Yes.
And did you grow up in the Forge? No.
No, he grew up in the Forge.
You grew up in the Middletown Road?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Right. And come here to me then, what was your mother's name?
My mother's name was Redmond.
A Redmond?
A Redmond of Ballyuctor, up that way.
Oh, up there, back that far up?
Yes, that far up.
All right. And so your mother and father, and did they live in the Forge, or did he set up a new house when he got married?
When he got married, he moved out of the Forge.
Out of the Forge. Down
to, the caretaker directory in the Ardamine Rectory for a while.
Right. And
then the care took the Middletown house that's now the nursing home. That time it belonged to Colonel Vandeleur, and he was serving away in India, but he sold the house on and he moved to Northern Ireland with his wife and one son.
Colonel
Vandeleur.
Vandeleur. And where was he? He was in the British Army?
Oh, the British Army. Yeah. And my eldest sister, Maureen, she was actually born in the Middletown.
All right. Right. And they were telling me, so your father, who married your mother, he grew up in the Forge.
He grew up in the Forge.
And was his father a blacksmith?
His father was a blacksmith. He came to the Forge to shoe the horses for Major Richards, which was Ardamine House, an estate at the time.
And is the Ardamine House still there now?
No, it was burned in the Troubles.
Okay, so that was Major Richards' place.
It was Major Richards' place, and my grandfather and grandmother came from Ferns originally.
Oh, right. And were they married when they came down?
They were married, yes.
And they came down.
And the house, presumably the house came with the job.
The job, yeah.
Job.
Yeah. And is there anything left of the Forge at all? The anvil or anything left?
They're all up. There is a cement horseshoe on my Uncle Brian's grave. He took on the blacksmithing. And that is up in Ardamine Graveyard on his grave.
The horseshoe?
Yeah, it's a wooden horseshoe on concrete, you know, and that's on his grave.
So that was your father's brother took it on then?
He took on.
Right.
And then there was another brother did some blacksmithing up there, my father's brother Aidan.
Right.
He was the eldest son.
Did they call him Moog at all?
No, always Uncle Aidan.
Uncle Aidan, yeah.
Yes.
They would call Aidan's Moog though, wouldn't they?
They did in those times.
Yeah, yeah. And so they moved from Ferns down to...
They did. They moved from, I think, Ferns of Green Hall. They were both married in Monageer Church now. And she was a Mary Byrne.
A Byrne?
Yes.
And you said you have relations Kennys in Ballygarrett.
Well, yes, because Peter Kenny was the son of Jimmy Kenny, the Mangan Lion.
Right.
And Frank Kenny, there was a Frank Kenny, he lived in Gorey.
Right.
And the sisters were Peg Johnson and May Noctor. Yes. You see, they changed with marriage. Yeah. The name changed.
And were those Kennys related to the Kennys of the Forge?
Well, they were all from the Forge.
They all came from the Forge and spread out then?
And spread out then.
All right.
Yes,
No,
yes.
That's how our neighbours, they would have come. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy they came like.
Yeah. And what do you have a rough date when your grandfather and grandmother moved down from Ferns?
I think it was in the 1800s. It might have been around 1800. I did have it written somewhere. I didn't think of.
Yeah.
But I do know my father was the youngest of 10, and that he's 51 years dead this August, and he was in his 80th year when he died.
Wow.
So would have been, I think, one child was born in Ferns.
Yeah.
Her name was Ellen Kenny, and she married a tailor.
Right.
They called him the Tailor Brian.
Yeah. And he was Brian, but he was a tailor by trade.
A tailor by trade, yes.
Was he a travelling tailor or was he a tailor?
No, and he had a son, Johnny O'Brien in Ferns. I think there were Johnny O'Brien in Ferns, and he did tailoring business, you know, up to recent times. Yeah. But she was the eldest of the family, Ellen. So my father was the youngest of the 10.
Right. So that's where your father, that's where they came out.
That's where they came from.
Yeah. And then your father then, and who did your father marry? What was your mother's name, can I ask?
Redmond of Ballyucta.
Redmond of Ballyucta, you told me that already.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, a lot of Redmonds. And was there many of you in family?
Us?
Yeah.
10. Oh, sorry, 9.
9 years?
9.
Lord.
Yes.
Big family as well?
Big family. 2 brothers and a sister died young in infancy.
Oh, no, sorry to hear that.
And the rest emigrated.
Oh, where did they go, eh?
Well, they went to England originally. One went to Jersey and the Channel Islands for the summer, and he met someone and he didn't go back. Well, except for holidays.
Yeah, yeah.
He's buried out in the Channel Islands.
Yeah.
Well, his wife had gone before him, so...
Yeah. And tell me this then, and the rest of them all went to England for work?
They all went to England for work because there wasn't anything here.
Yeah. I heard the same at home as well. My father, and they all went to England for work.
All
his sisters went to England for work.
Yes.
Up to Dublin, and then not to Dublin into England then.
Yes.
And did every one of them, all your brothers and sisters go?
They did. My eldest brother was John, and he did come back in later years. He went to England because they had a block making business down in Courtown, and one of them was a Tom Dunnigan. He'd be a brother of the lady that's coming after me, like, and he went to America, and the other man's name was Tom Fortune, and they couldn't keep the block going with 2, like. Yeah. So he went to England. A good few went at that, and then later on he sent for his wife and children when he got established. Yeah. But they all went to England.
That was a common thing, wasn't it? I came across that with my own relations, where the men would go over.
Yes.
They could be over there for a year or 2 years and a bit.
Yes. He had a wife and 2 children here. They lived in Riverchapel. Yeah. But then when he got and he lived many years in it, but he always wanted to come home.
Yeah. I've come across as well as people where the husband and wife would go over, but they'd leave the child behind and the grandparents would look after.
Yes.
That in my own family.
Yes.
Yeah. So they all went. Was there any particular place in England where they went? Did they go to Coventry or?
No, they started off in Corby.
Corby, yeah.
And then I had a sister, and she went to Liverpool first. Actually, 2 sisters, but then they ended up one in Redhill in Surrey in England. She was a psychiatric nurse and married an Englishman, or a half Englishman, anyhow. And then my other sister, they lived near Windsor in England. Right. And the other sister that's still alive is living in London.
And you never went yourself?
Well, you see, my parents were elderly. Yeah. My mother's eyesight wasn't good, and someone
had to stay home.
Yeah, and I was a good bit younger, and I was 7 years to the next one, and the others was a good bit older, you know, in a big family, like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should the big ones be gone when you were born by that same?
Oh, they were gone. We never were really all together, like.
That's gas.
But they did come home in the summer.
That's incredible. When you think about small families now, when everyone's rare together, that was a common thing, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very common. There was no work here, like.
Yeah.
There was no work.
Yeah. So you stayed around Courtown?
I stayed around.
Yeah.
I worked in the middle town, and I worked for a bit in the Marine Hotel, and then I worked with different families, like, you know, with children and all.
Yeah.
Everyone had someone working that had children.
Yeah.
There wasn't play schools and things, like, you know.
Yeah. Jesus. And can I ask you, when were you born yourself?
The 17th of the 2nd, 1945.
1945.
Yes.
I thought you're 70. I want to. Yeah, you're
76.
76. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And like even school, going to school then, where?
I went to Riverchapel,
Riverchapel.
where the community centre is now built on at the back of it, like.
Oh yeah.
That school was built in 1900.
Yeah.
All my family would have went to school there.
Yeah. 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 Tell me this as well. Sure, just no one, like my mother and father left school young. There was no, they were going off working wherever they get work. There was no secondary school back then, was there?
Well, there was, but you'd have to. There weren't free education, I think, as far as I can remember, and you'd have to ride in and out of Gorey with transport and all.
Yeah.
And I left Riverchapel at 14.
Yeah.
And my last teacher was a very nice man, I must say, Mr. Nicholas Redmond from Ballygarrett.
All right.
He was my last. Now, all teachers in my time were, but of course it was the system, like,
Yeah.
children obeyed parents and teachers in those days, like.
Yeah. That's Nicky Redmond there of Gorey, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. He's buried in the graveyard over there.
Yeah, and his brother was Moog, wasn't
That's right.
he? Yeah, I remember Moog.
And Mrs. Redmond is still alive.
Yeah.
Now, she didn't teach in my time, she was teaching in Ballygarrett.
Wow.
But Kilmuckridge. But we were there when he was married, like, and he bought us a little bit of the wedding cake, which was a big thing in those.
In the school.
At the school, and of course we're dying to see the photographs, like all black and white and lovely.
Yeah.
Photographs.
So you were going to school probably early 1950s then?
I started at 6. I didn't go much younger. I started at 6 and I finished at 14.
Lord, yeah.
Yes.
I know. Well, so Riverchapel would have been much like. So where was your house? Can I ask?
If you going home to Ballygarrett.
Well, I know it in my head.
Yeah. Well, you take the first turn right up here.
Oh, no, I have.
And then there was a Church of Ireland school right beside it. We were. That had been built before that.
Oh, so Church of Ireland school as well.
There was, and then the teacher's house that's just been sold and renovated. That had been there for about well over 100 years.
That's the right hand turn there up.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the cottage was built in 1935.
1935.
I was born in the house, like.
Right. And is your cottage like the one that P. Kenny is in Ballygarrett, one of those ones, or is it 2 up, 2 down?
No, it's not 2 up, 2 down, and it's just on its own now. It's not the joined together ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know the houses, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and was the Church of Ireland school there as well?
It was, and till quite, like, we looked after it and lit the fire. That was the stove, and we looked after that, and Canon Madden was director, like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then they decided that they had closed Kiltennel Church of Ireland, they closed Clonavon, and they closed Ardamine, and everyone went into Gorey to build a. But we loved the school next door, like.
Of course you would, yeah. Oh, yeah, because there was a small church in Clonavon as well.
No, that's right. Clonavon and one in Kiltennel.
Yeah, there was a small school in Clonavon, yeah, I remember.
Yes.
Little Lord. And tell me, so you went to school up here where school is now?
Riverchapel, yes.
Did you always have to bring things into school, like carrying in breastings and sticks?
Well, yeah, in the early days. Yeah. In the early days, you had to bring in sticks, and we used to have to sweep the school after. But then I think my brother Aidan, the one that went to Jersey, he got 2 shillings or something. He swept the school in his later days.
Little Lord.
There was 4 children 4 teachers, 2 men usually and 2 women.
What were the teachers' names, can you remember?
Well, I remember Miss Murphy, she came from Ballygarrett way as well.
Yeah.
She was in my, and there was a Miss Dalton, and then there was a Mr. and Mrs. Crane. They lived in the village. The Mr. Crane died shortly after I started school. Now I'm sure it wasn't that made him. And he was, I think, related to the Cranes, the Kerry men that did the expedition with the ice and things.
Oh,
He came from Kerry.
All right.
And then the Mrs. Crane, we had sewing, of course, every 2 days a week and knitting, and you had this book and you knitted these socks, and by the time you left school, the socks, of course, wouldn't fit you, but we were taught everything now, really, when you think of it, like, you know, we made aprons and we did a bit of embroidery, and there was nothing that, you know, and I think the boys made stools and things, some of them, when they got to the older.
Yeah, like firms and stools and things like that.
Things like that, yes.
Was there an after school here, like knowing the young lads that left school, there might be a little woodwork class for
No.
like that, no.
They went into the tech then, like if they left school, sort of, into Gorey.
Yeah.
There was the Christian Brothers, the convent and the technical school in Gorey.
Yeah. And tell me this, how did you know about your man, the Crane, the husband and wife, being related to Tom Crane?
Well, I don't know how we got it. It came in like in adult life, we seem to have found
connection.
That some connection, because he had a cousin, I think, was up in the Middletown in the retirement home. She's passed on, like, and she came from Kerry. Now he might have been a very distant relation, like, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, Patrick was his name, Patrick Crane.
Patrick Crane.
And his wife was Catherine.
Yeah.
They're buried up in Ardemoyan.
Yeah.
Up there.
And tell me this, the Murphy part, they were Ballygarrett, you said, Miss Murphy, was it?
Miss Murphy come some way because she had a motor car, a Ford Prefect, and we'd hardly seen a car much, you know, and she had a new one, but she come down that road anyhow.
Yeah. Did she do music with you, no?
No, Mrs. Crane did the music.
Right.
I never could sing, but if you couldn't sing while they were practicing, you wrote out all the hymns.
Right.
And I could, although I tried my best to get into this singing, the farthest I got was writing out the hymns while they were practicing. They used to have plain chant and everything them days.
Serious?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I think I wanted to be in the choir. You got lemonade and biscuits.
And did you remember much talk at all about Father Ransom and the songs of the Wexford Coast?
Well, not in them. It's only in adult time. I think there's my uncle Aidan Kenny now. He had some poem or something in the songs of the Wexford Coast.
Did he?
Yeah, if you had that book, Aidan Kenny's on it.
I will. I must look it up as I have it.
Yeah, just Aidan. That might be a tribute to another person as well.
Right.
But he was the uncle that also was a blacksmith, like in the forge, and then his wife had died young in childbirth. So in the end, he moved up to Dublin. They thought it'd kill him. And he lived to be 90 or something, you know, leaving here. Yeah. Dublin was like Mars that time.
Yeah. And nowadays it's. Now we're in a bit up the road.
That only up the road.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. When did the dub start coming down?
Well, I think they started coming a long time down because they had sort of what they call the huts on the borough. Yeah. You know, that Kenny's borough, that'd be Brian Kenny's as well at the forge.
They're in the left.
The farthest one up from here now, if you go straight up.
Up towards Ballygarrett?
Yeah.
That was called the borough as
That's Kenny's borough.
Kenny's borough.
And then in between there was Wafer's borough, and then there was Daly's borough.
Right.
Daly's borough was first up the Sandy Lane.
Right.
And Nancy Daly only died very late. Father Canon Paddy Daly only died, I think, this year.
Right.
Or no, yeah, this year he died. Right. The last of that family, like.
And what were the names of the boroughs again?
There was Daly's borough, then there was Wafer's borough, and then there's Kenny's borough.
And the borough was a name for
the down sand dunes.
Oh, sand dunes, yeah.
They sort of started off, I think, as bathing houses, things, and then they elaborated and they built on, and I think they're there since 1935 or something like that.
Those little houses there.
Little houses. One of them was the Murphys of Inniscarty. It got burnt this year. He'd be, you know, you'd see his lorries and all, his supplies, retails and shops and things.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I do know. Yeah, they cash and carry, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had it.
And it was so there wasn't always Dublin people. Were there other people in the
Oh, not all Dublin people. Funges of Gorey had. They had one. I think was Wafer's borough, and the Wall flood walls or wall floods, you know, in the Scotty, they were on Wafers Borough. And Dr. O'Doherty of Gorey and his wife had like a converted tram thing on that borough.
Did they?
That was on Daly's, and it was a Lee, some engineers. On Daly's borough, and there was Gotchins of Gorey, used to have shoes, and they were on Daly's borough.
And what kind of setup were they? Little converted, what were they?
Well, they were mostly wooden, and of course they wouldn't have proper sewerage, which people didn't have at that time either, so...
Yeah. And what were they used for? Like, people come for nowadays?
Oh, they come down from Gorey and all for, you know, come out, and I don't know whether they actually lived in O'Connor's of Gorey. They're another one, like, used to have and sometimes they'd come for the summer with children and that sort of things.
And to go out and they'd play in the beach and they'd use
well,
that
they would have had a beach, a big beach, and the whole borough to have picnics and Northern Call barbecues them days.
Yes, or picnics.
Picnics those days, yes.
Also, and would it have been, people would have slept in them as well, would they? Or?
Oh gosh, they wouldn't have got better as time went on.
Yeah.
One, you can look at from Ardemine Cemetery, like the old Nissan Huts things, like.
Yeah.
But of course they're getting nearer to see Dr. Nixon, he had one up on Kennysborough as well.
Lord.
I think it's gone. Some of the CDCs came in.
Yeah. And did people buy their little plots or did they?
Well, I think they weren't very expensive at the time.
Yeah.
But being Brian Kenny, like, and his wife was Alice Kenny.
Yeah.
Before she married him, so that makes the Kennys a little bit mixed up, like.
Right. Yeah.
Two lots of Kennys.
Yeah. And there were Nissan Huts there, were there?
Oh, there's one now, you can still see it from, you know, I think that's what they call, you know, round Carrigaha things.
Yeah, there's still one there.
There's still one there.
That's from the 50s.
Wafers, and it's like if you went up, you could see it from the graveyard. The best views are from the graveyard.
And when you go up to the graveyard, is it over to your left or to your right?
The Nissan one is to the left.
Yeah.
If you stand at well, you could go down the borough, like, if you wanted better.
Yeah, that was it. That's gas. And when you remember when you were a little one growing up, were they just fields all the way up towards Powlshawn?
There would have been there would have been fields.
And you know what I mean now, I remember years ago getting to Gorey, bus to Gorey, and maybe you're up in the height anyway.
Yes.
But there was you got a great view of the sea. There's all the ditches growing up now.
Well, yeah, wouldn't you see, if I got the bus, I'd have got it lower down at the end of the Middletown Road. Yeah. So I wouldn't have seen. Yeah. But of course all those houses weren't there. Yeah. There was a few, Bulger to Gorey had a house, I think there's 3 families living in it now. It's on your right on the way up, like. Yeah. And there was no mobile homes.
None whatsoever.
No.
Yeah. And that's interesting to know that so there are local families, and we call the Dublin people the Baders. The Baders. Yeah. Because the reason being the local people never got into the sea, and I think it came from the fishermen were very suspicious. If you happened to go overboard, apparently you died quicker if you couldn't swim. So they called them the Baders then. They got into the sea. They got into the sea, they did. Yeah, and undressed in their bathing huts, like, you know. Bathing huts, yeah. Their bathing huts, Lord, yeah. And come here to me, I was thinking as well, was there a bit of rivalry between Riverchapel and Courtown? Well, I think there's still rivalry between Riverchapel and Courtown. Yes, it is. Yeah, and there were a lot of thatched houses here. There were thatched houses. People had lived for generations, you know, generations they lived in the thatched houses. And was the forge thatched or was it galvanised or slate? Strange enough, I think it was slated. Yeah. Slated, because the one opposite us, no, that was slated. Yeah. Maybe because of Major Richards probably built houses for her. Yeah. Because I had an aunt now, and they got near where Ardemine House was. Her husband was a James Sinnott, and I don't know how they got this farm under the Land Commission thing. Yeah. And they lived down the lane now. She'd have been a sister of my father. She'd be Biddy, she was called Biddy Sinnott, like, cause she married a Sinnott. Yeah. And they only had one daughter. I think they lost another. I think it got sold to Mahi Duggan or something in the first. Yeah. And then Colette O'Toole. Colette had a house next door. She was a Keys, like, of Ardemine. Yeah. Are there many keys here? Was that name popular?
No, I only know one, like.
Yeah.
Colette was going to school maybe a year or so older than me in my time, like.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So the detached houses are in Riverchapel. Where were detached houses again that were in?
Well, where the hairdressing place is now, there's a hairdressing at that side, and there was people called Redmonds, and they had a bit of a barn thing at the back down the lane. They had I think, he had a horse and brought gravel and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the the McLaughlins were 3 sisters. I think one of them was married, but they called them the McLaughlins, like.
Yeah.
And there was a few, I think there was Kane's, and there was a few, but that house on the corner was always slated in my time, the one that's for sale there now at the V. Kinsley's Daly's owned it at that time.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, there.
Yeah.
Across the road where Jimmy's is, they were attached, weren't they?
Well, there was some, like, between here and Jimmy's. Redmonds was slated, they were farmers, like maybe that.
Yeah.
Down along, and then there was the Bawn.
The Bawn?
All white-washed houses.
Where was the Bawn?
That was just where Jimmy probably has his seats out there now.
Was that little house, was it?
Little houses, yeah, they were called the Bawn.
Oh.
And I think they've called a new housing estate, some of it the Bawn as well, anyhow.
Bawn, because of the white.
Yeah, Bawn for Irish, then.
Yeah, for the whitewash.
For the whitewashed.
Yeah. Jeez, so the little houses were whitewashed?
Little houses was whitewashed, and my time was a woman took in all the washing. It was lovely and white, and when you saw what they had to do over fires and all the smoke and all that had been, you'd wonder how then they dry out on shrubs and things,
Yeah.
Did
you ever seen putting bluestone in?
No, but I heard of it, like.
Yeah.
I heard of this blue thing that you'd have to put in.
Yeah. Or blue rinsing, was it?
Blue, something blue.
Yeah.
Vaguely remember that a bit, like.
Yeah. Just put the bluestone in with the whitewash as well, when they were whitewashing something.
Well, my father used to whitewash everything, you'd have pictures and everything if you didn't take them down in time.
Yeah.
But I know, used to put a bit of yellow thing in it to make it not real white, like.
All right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And where was your house? That was
Middletown.
Yeah.
Opposite Etchingham Heights now, but Etchingham Heights was fields with cattle in them then, of course.
Yeah. And do you remember even sayings like whitewashing me, you'll wash all your luck away? Do you ever hear that in Pishogs?
Well, they had a lot. Don't really remember that one, but I'm sure someone would, like.
Did you just put up a maybush here?
They did in the Grove there across from Jimmy's. They did have a maybush.
Yeah. And
painted eggs and all. I don't know whether they painted ribbons and things. They used to have a maybush, all right. But I was quite young now. I don't think even I was let go to the maybush, so I was that late to go.
And where was the maybush again? Tell me.
Across the place they call the Grove.
Yeah.
It's to the left. And there's a little lot of houses there, 3 little houses to the left, like, and a lane up, and there's all, if you went the road to Courtown from here, you'd see all trees now.
All right.
Yes.
That's on the left hand side.
On the left, if you went now, like.
Yeah, before the chapel.
Well, if you turned the Grove would be on your right going down that road, like.
Right.
It's just that time it wasn't as grown up.
Oh, and what would it do there? Would it be a dance there?
Well, I think they were just children, really.
Right.
I don't think there was any big thing. It was just a furze bush and that.
Yeah.
But to children at that time, it was a big thing.
Yeah. Did you go around looking for money for the maybush?
No.
Just put it up that
They
time?
just put it up themselves.
Yeah. Did you remember your mother and them blessing the house and me at all with the tran water?
No.
No.
The house was consecrated to the Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
And then a Father Keogh came along and he wanted the Blessed Virgin, so we the Blessed Virgin and Sacred Heart.
Oh, he wanted it, did he?
The 2 lots, like.
All right.
So, and all the children's names.
Yeah.
And she always had her eye lamp burning in front of the Sacred Heart.
Your mother?
She did, even in the war, she said, which I don't remember, she kept oil for the Sacred Heart. So I have electric light.
So she kept the sacred, because I've seen those
little globes, yes.
Yeah. She kept it during the war years.
She told me that, like the war was finishing when I was born, so it.
Yeah. And would you keep it going all day?
No. Well, I'd say it was the only light they had at night, like.
So
Well, they had a lamp now. They had the electricity came when I was about 4.
right.
And I still remember it. We had an oil paraffin lamp, like.
Yeah. So you were born in 45. was it?
5, yes.
Or 4 then.
So the
yeah.
electricity came about 49.
Yeah.
And it came to the hotel in the Middletown. And my father had worked, well, he started off as a gardener and then he did everything sort of. And we got one bulb in the kitchen. We thought it was the greatest thing that great thing to have the light.
Yeah. Around 1949 was it?
Must have been, I think I was about 4.
And tell me this, because my own mother remember saying, Mammy, them they cooked on the open fire.
Oh, she did cooked on they didn't let fanners in. Most houses had fanners. You know, no, cooked on the open fire. All the ironwork was made up in the forge.
Okay.
And you could wheel out, when you think of the water had to be carried, first from a well up the road, and then there was a pump at the end of the road. And she baked the loveliest breads.
Yeah.
And cooked, like, you know, we had our own potatoes, every cottage came with.
Yeah.
And we had enough stuff that way, like.
And then
the cooked in a pan and
the
turned
bread
up.
pan.
Yes.
With the grease up over the lid of it.
Over the lid of it.
Yeah. Do you remember my mother did this? They used to go out and collect dry cow shite during the summer months.
They did, yeah, because Bulger's Field was behind us.
Did you do that?
They did.
Or
He did, yes.
Yeah. And you'd let that dry out.
Dry out, like.
And you'd use it with the
use it.
With the sticks.
The sticks and things.
Did you do it, or did your mother and them do it?
Well, my mother, as I said, her eyes weren't grey any time, but she never admitted it, like, so it was mostly me.
You did it, did you?
Yes.
Yeah, well, my mother said she did it as well. And
yes.
I tell people and they'd laugh at me.
No, that definitely happened.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And that was where all those houses was Bulgers or Gorey owned it, all that land that time.
Did you ever have a name on them, like Bolyons or Beauchamps or Bory?
No, we used to call them cow dung.
Yeah. And was ever told, well, if a child was annoying you, go out in the field there and turn cow,
no.
give him a job through, yeah?
No, well, you see, I was nearly like an only child with the others had left. Yeah, so young, like.
And tell me this, when you were drawing water, you were drawing water from a well, was there a spring well near you?
There was one up opposite Wafers. But the pump had came to the end of the road in my time, to the right end, so we only had to bring it up from there.
Okay.
And then we had barrels for, you know, and the river was at the river ran down by the end of our plot line. Now, we strictly speaking, we weren't supposed to be getting water out of the river because it was dangerous, but I often watered the rhubarb when my father was working and my mother was inside.
You throw in the bucket?
You throw in the bucket if the barrel was getting empty.
Yeah. And that's the Univara, is it?
It's a tributary, it's the Brian Og.
Brian Ogre?
Yeah, Brian Ogre. It goes into the Univara.
Yeah. What did your people call it, the Brian Ogre?
The Brian Og, they called him, I tell you.
Brian Og.
And it did flood, you know, we were high enough up, but it flooded going to Riverchapel and all.
And would it be deep, would it?
Oh, it would be deep. The spring had never dried up in my time.
Wow.
They often froze up in winters long gone. The children were skated or probably hadn't escaped those times, but I never did that now. The most I did was got water to water the garden when I got away with it.
Yeah. And your mother and father had the rhubarb and...
the rhubarb, and he sowed potatoes and cabbage and beans and beetroot, which we didn't eat. But he sowed every year anyhow.
Yeah.
And staked the peas and all. They were lovely, of course, the vegetables from the garden.
Of course they were.
Carrots, yes, it is.
Do you ever... No, my mother in my home did always go rooting the first buds on the 29th of June. St. Peter and Paul's
well, that was the day we were never supposed to eat them up till then, I think. That was a big day in Courtown then.
Yeah.
You know, this in those days.
That day, the 29th of June? 29th
of June.
How do you mean it would be
well,
a big
I think the farmers and all, they didn't work, you see. It was a holy day, like.
Right.
And the biggest day was the 15th of August, of course.
Lady Day.
Oh, well, they opened the harbour, I think, that day.
Right.
As far as I can remember.
So the 29th was a big day as well,
It was a big day, but the 15th was all the relations. Like our relations came from Ferns, and there was something about bona fide. You could drink then in the bona fide because there were 2 miles or something outside.
Bona fide travellers.
Now they only had bikes, but they didn't ride home that night, like, you know.
Where were they sleep?
Well, they didn't sort of sleep. They sat up in what chairs we had because we didn't have enough beds for them.
Oh, sitting up and just chatting.
Yeah.
Oh, so the 15th.
15th was.
Yeah, and the 15th of August is also called Lady Day. A lot of people went to the sea that day.
That day.
You know, what was there a regatta in Courtown or something?
Well, I think now a lot of it, the relations were still coming. The ones from Ballykinnew, there was a hackney service going day and night so there was 2 lots of relations like coming. But the Ballykinnew ones went home in the hackney car, the others had their bikes.
Yeah.
And I used to tell the descendants of those, when they were down now, they got bikes from Santa Claus one time. They thought they heard these stories, but they got tired very quick.
Yeah.
They're men now, so I won't mention their names.
And what would you do on the 15th of August, eh?
Well, they had all stalls apparently now. A lot of this had gone, and like, you know, a little thing in those days was a big thing, you know. They'd corn buns and a man lay on nails and the yoke bang and the bell rings, and I think that fortune telling, someone dressed up, and you see people didn't go anywhere, so it was a big day. And they brought picnics with them, and Mrs. Ayrton down there and people like that had boiled water. Don't forget there was no flasks or no. And then down the road here where Dunbar's, they'd let the dunk that have to unyoke the carts and things. So it was a very big day.
Good, well that's interesting now, because I've come across that Lady Day with the picnic thing too, where people bring picnics and
things.
Sit out and the family get together.
Oh, they did, and of course there wasn't as much motor cars. You could sit at the side of the road and all. There was that like.
That's interesting now. And would you root the spuds that day at all? Or would you dig the new spuds that day?
No, I don't think we did. I don't remember anything about the dinners. I just remember my grandfather, he died when I was 9, but all my other grandparents had long passed, like. And he might give you treatments, and this was, we're waiting all day looking out to get this. Wow. Things are very different, of course. Had all her own eggs and all, and my mother used to, the chickens she couldn't keep, the cock, there's a man called Mickey Breen went around, and he'd weigh him on the scales, and he'd buy those.
It's just the thing, you'd always have too many cocks, because we had hens as well. And would they kill a cock and ate it on a Sunday?
Well, my father now, he could kill him in a second, like. So we had, and pluck him and all. Oh, we did, should have got, and even the hens got too old to lay on much of. We did have.
Do you ever remember the word for it? No, the hens would lay an egg and there'd be no shell on it.
Oh, it's soft eggs, they call them.
Did you ever call them a bug-on?
No, and then they thought that the hen got a fright or something, There wasn't many foxes, but you see the hens would go out in the field, and they could get caught, one of them, or frightened, or then we had to keep them out of the garden too, and Father wouldn't be that pleased if the hens had scratched. We'd have to repair the damage before he came.
Did he cut the acre with his side?
He did, he cut Ardmoyne graveyard with his side too, in his time.
Isn't it funny, I've over the years I've found whetstones in a couple of graveyards.
Yes.
The lads would lose and lay them.
Yeah, no, he used to, the Uncle Brian was the caretaker of Ardmoyne graveyard. And you see, at the far side is Church of Ireland and Catholic mixed, like my grandfather and ancestors at that side, and the others, but they always went together on the cutting of the graves.
The Church of Ireland and the...
they all went together on so that'd all be nice for this pattern, like.
And when was the pattern day?
Well, it started off the 15th of August, and then all so much emigration, and they got holidays from England in July, like. And we had it in July, And then the place got built up and we're told, you know, it'd be better to have it early in the year before the traffic built up on that narrow road and all. And then we started having Hannah Corpus Christi.
That's early June then, is it?
Well, it depends on Easter.
Oh yeah.
And I think, and then what happened was it wasn't a holy day anymore, so we went to the 3rd Sunday of May when there wouldn't be too many people on roads, and now of course we haven't had one since the year before last, because you can't have people gathering, can you?
Oh, so you went from Lady Day, the 15th of August,
yes,
to July,
yes.
and now it's back.
Well, I think the 15th of August could have been, I think the church was consecrated.
Yeah.
Down the new church.
Yeah.
Our Lady Star the Sea.
Well, that's the thing. The 15th of August is Lady Day. So that's the feast of the Assumption, is it?
The Feast of the Assumption.
Yeah, so that's why it's tied in with Lady.
And then the other church was burnt down in 1798.
Yes, the one in Riverchapel.
The one in Riverchapel.
Where was the old church in Riverchapel?
Where the graveyard is.
The small graveyard by the school.
Yeah, small graveyard.
Did you ever hear them talking about who burnt it down or anything like that? Or?
Oh, it was burnt down in the rebellion.
Yeah, local yeomen or local.
Yeomen, or I think there was not quite sure of this, that the yeomen came from Cork at one stage. The local yeomen didn't. I think there was this in Ballycanoe or Ballygart burned down.
Ballygart was burnt down.
But then there was a Father Stafford. He was a captain, I think. He has a little plaque in the church over there.
Father Nicholas Stafford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. That might not have helped, like.
Yeah. Oh, so he was parish priest here, was he?
Well, it was only Cure at that time. Ballygart was the parish.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that the same Father Stafford then, who the cooks looked after?
Yes. Yes, I think, yeah, I'm sure that's right, yes.
And what story did you hear about that?
Well, there was something about a white horse. He's buried in Blackwater. The nuns there, I've seen his graveyard and I've seen a field like.
Yeah, I know it, yeah.
But it was the cooks that sheltered him, if you like that.
He's buried in Ballyvaloo.
Ballyvaloo, that's right.
Left hand side.
I've been at his grave.
Yeah, same as myself.
Yes, yes.
So it was the cooks look after him, wasn't it?
Yes, the cooks.
And when he was, they were Church of Ireland.
They were Church of Ireland.
Yeah. And did you hear? We had a story in Ballygart. He said that when the law was be a white horse in this yard.
That's right. We had that probably from Ballygart, that story as well.
Yeah. Because
he escaped, didn't he, on a white?
Yeah.
When he was on the run, like.
Yeah, they looked after him, didn't it?
They looked after him.
Yeah.
But I think the whole thing, I think he died fairly suddenly. When Father Ryan came, he put a little plaque there in the window just as you go into the vestry.
Oh, I didn't know that now.
Yeah, there is a little plaque. The church is open. Well, I say, if you ever wanted to, on the left-hand side.
Right. There's a singer called John Furlong.
Oh, that's right.
John Stephen's brother.
Stephen's brother.
He wrote a song about Father Stafford.
He's a lovely voice. He sang at a cousin of mine's wedding one time.
Yeah, gorgeous. Yeah.
He has a lovely voice.
Yeah, he wanted to tell that story, that Father Stafford story.
Yes.
Was there any talk years ago when you were growing up about where pikes were made in '98 or anything like that?
Well, I don't think now. Well, if there were, it'd have been up in Ferns with any of my people. There were blacksmiths in the Harrow and Ferns.
Right.
And up to recent times now, the last one in the forge was this Uncle Brian that has the thing in. But up to recent times, there was one of them a born of Ferns, like she'd be a niece of my father's, and she'd 7 sons. And he used to go around shoeing. He went for Highland Riley. He went around shoeing horses.
Right.
And he never learned to drive. And myself and my brother John, he didn't drive either. And I was picking up John and some picking up, of course they were in a pub like.
Yeah.
And they said how great they were, they didn't need motor cars to go to do their work.
Yeah.
And they didn't think like that. I thought that was funny. They didn't think me and the other person like had gone in to pick him up in the pub like. They were, these motor cars were overrated.
Yeah. Just had a private Private drivers, had they?
Well, someone, they didn't. Maybe the person that they were, he went all Jim Byrne of Ferns.
Yeah.
A lot of them are buried in both Ferns graveyard, and I wouldn't find them now, even myself. Yeah. And there's a little, I can't think of it now, small church there. Very small church. As I said, I have now, but they're gone back. They live in Gorey now. Imelda Hughes passed. She'd have been a cousin of mine, and grew up in Ferns and lived here for a long time. But we used to have done a bit with her when our back was injured one time.
Yeah. So and trying to go back to 1998. So, yeah. And so was there any? Let me see. Did no one you were going to school? Was there any talk about 98 in school with the teachers at all?
Well, I don't think, I know that we never knew, that there was a civil war after we left. Now, I know this is going. We had the history books, but the minute it ended with Ireland or Republic,
ended there.
That was it. But you see, the secondary school there may have been.
So there was no talk about the civil war.
No, never knew. And my mother, you see, had grown. And she'd explained to me she worked in Dublin and how the people didn't want the rising first when they saw what the English went through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the roundabout way, that's how she met my father, because he was bringing in milk to the creamery and she was late one night and there was a curfew on. And she was telling him about, they said, well, you never have to walk again. I'll meet you at the creamery. I'll meet you at the train when I bring you. Because she lived in Ballykinnew at that time, Right. But so going back to the...
So where did you meet? Where was the curfew? The curfew wasn't in Gorey.
The curfew was everywhere, and they had killed some inspector or something.
Lee Wilson.
Yeah, they killed him. Yeah. And they were on their way out to burn her cousin's house. Now, she didn't know that at the time, because he was Kenny of another Ballyuchter Kenny, no relation to the Ford Kennys. Yeah. And she'd gone out and she said the tans passed her and they could, but they just kept going, because she was out because the train was late.
Yeah, because he was killed up there in the Ballykinnew Road. Yeah,
and she was walking out. By that time she lived in Ballinatrae. Well, she went to work at 14, that time in Wexford, and she worked mostly in Dublin before she was married. Yeah. And then, of course, when she got married, that was...
So I'm trying to get my own head around the story here. That case, she didn't... Is her story from the day your man was killed?
No, but it wasn't long after it. I think they were going... the burned houses down here too, I'm sure the others have thought, for the sympathisers.
No, I'll come back to that in a second. So that was your mother, wasn't
Mother, Edmund, yes.
And your father, and he met her then
at the railway station in Gorey.
And he said, I'd bring you out to Ballykinnew, you won't.
Yeah, you won't have to anymore, because she told him the fright she got, you see. You had to bring the milk. He was working for Cavan as a collector in the farm, was still up my road, and you had to bring the milk into the creamery, in a horse and cart, obviously.
Down in Ballykinnew there were proper roads.
Yeah, that had to go on the train after that,
Oh, no, but
somewhere.
Yeah.
There's something to do with the train, anyhow.
So he saw an opportunity and he met your mother.
Yeah.
due to the black and tans, but she got a fright with him, did she?
Well, she did, because she was out hours after time. There was a curfew on, and of course they went, when this high official was killed, that didn't go down well.
Right. Yeah, he was there before the Ambers, that big hotel there, isn't it?
Yes. That's right.
Yeah, the house there. Yeah. And tell me this, what was the story about the black and tans burning down houses here? What was that?
Well, they burnt down Sean Etchingham's mother's house. He was the first Minister for Fisheries. He has that thing in Ardemoyan. And that's where the Unavara Hotel became. Yeah. And then the Courtown Hotel was the RIC barracks. Yeah. Now this was the other side burnt this. So they were burnt that time.
Right. Where was Sean Etchingham's mother's house,
in the main street in Courtown where the Unavara Hotel was. Okay. She had Sean Etchingham wasn't married. Yeah. And he had two nephews, the butlers. One of them is a house in the Red Rose still. Right. One a daughter be descended. She went to Greece, and poor Stephen died with polio. They'd been grandnephews, like, but the house is up there. So then they burnt that. You see, there's all this burning, the retaliation, of course.
Yeah. And was it burnt to the ground, or?
Well, they just said it was burnt. They're all thatched roofs, like.
Okay.
Yes.
Was the Red Road thatched, was it? Was it thatched?
Well, no, I think Lord Courtown built them.
Okay.
They were for the workers.
Okay.
They were well built.
They were well built.
These were the peasants for the houses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sean Itchingham's.
Yeah, Sean Itchingham's.
Yeah. Etchingham name's unusual. Is there any at all left around?
Well, the only one I know, and I don't, the descendants are butlers now.
Butlers?
Yes, because they were his sister's children, it must have been, you know.
Oh, much.
Yeah, and the only Etchingham I ever saw was the pub in Blackwater.
Yeah.
And I've no idea whether they're related or not.
Yeah, that's the only one I know as well, Etchingham's in Blackwater as well.
Yes.
Yeah. He was a great man to write songs and poems.
Oh, he was, and he's actually buried in the old graveyard.
Up in Ardimoyne.
Ardimoyne, but the stone, because I think maybe that was Mixed Church of Ireland, maybe they didn't like it. But the stone is up there.
I saw it up in the height there.
And my brother John, with all he remembered President De Valera came, long black coat, of course, and Riverchapel had a band that time, and they all marched up to this.
Did they?
They did.
What was it, like a pipe band? Or
wasn't a pipe band, I think the drum, maybe they banged everything, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't, Bill Kane and them and poor Dermot Dunbar now, they'd remembered, well, they mightn't. It'll I see my brother John will be 93 now if he's alive, so it's that age group that they remember that better, like. And he was only a chap, he said, at the time.
When did Sean Etchingham, when was he buried, eh?
Well, I don't know whether they have that on that stone or not.
Should be there, yeah.
Yeah, there's only a small one over the other. Over near the end of the wall. I've never gone in much to that one. When I was a child, I used to be up in it because there was a thing to Major Richard's son. Okay. He died before he was 21 and they had to cut the top off the pillar. We used to go up of a Sunday.
What was that story?
He died in the war, and you couldn't put a memorial when you were underage, apparently. It was all fenced in, it's still fenced in up there.
So up in
the church, the mixed graveyard, Protestant Catholic.
Yeah. And there's a grave to Major Richard's
up
son.
In the very corner, yeah. Well, and it's covered in grave things as well, like.
And they couldn't put a certain memorial up? Or?
Well, they put it up and knocked the top off it.
Jeez.
We thought it was, well, that was the entertainment of a Sunday. You had maybe the Holy Hour and benediction, you'd have went that way or the other.
Yeah.
But now I wouldn't chance going up to it now, you know, maybe rocky for the feet.
Yeah.
Or that.
Well,
still up there in the very corner near where the bungalow was built.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
And come here, you have a little moat there as well to the side of it.
Yes.
A little mound there.
No, little mound.
Was you ever told anything about that?
I did, but I'm not sure it's the truth.
What did you hear?
Well, Annie Kinsler had it that it's from some of the High Kings or something's little thing. When I was growing up, they said the fairies had their gold in it, so I'd say that's less a chance now it'd have been dug up by now.
The fairies had their
gold
on top of the mound.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Were there any Raheens around here?
Well, there's supposed to be a fairy ring up the Fairy Lane. Well, I don't know whether it's built over or ploughed up or...
Where's the Fairy Lane?
On the way into Gorey, near the... Oh, you know where the strawberry place is now?
Greens there?
Yeah. The first lane.
Yeah.
That's the Fairy Lane.
What was it?
Comes out on the other road.
All right. Oh, the road out towards Kiora, that way?
No, it come out on the road, the back road going into Gorey.
All right. The Fairy Lane.
It comes straight down the back road and then you go for the sawmills there.
Oh, no, I have you.
Yeah, that lane.
Yeah. That's Fairy Lane.
Yes.
Yeah. Jeez.
And somewhere there was supposed to be a circle now. I never saw it like it.
Yeah. People believe a lot of that stuff years ago too.
Oh, should have believed it all. There was no television.
Yeah, big stories, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Where was the bow scene down here?
I never came across her. They used to say there was rattling at graveyards. I think it was to frighten children home.
Yeah. Was there any graveyards you go here for a cure for warts, something like that?
No, but Father Webb was a healing priest, is buried up in Ardimoyne, and people do believe in him.
Father Webb?
Yeah, he's covered over there near the moat you're talking about.
And what would people do? Would people take a stone or would
Well, no, the god, I think they thought he'd been dug up, so his grave is completely covered over.
Right.
You know, it's like a cross and all on it, and iron bars around it. But people still believe in Father Webb.
For a cure?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And when you mean a cure, would, like for example, I know a grave in Blackwater, Father Lambert's, where people might take a stone off it and they ring it, they put it for luck. Or another grave, a priest might lay down and get a cure for a sore back. That's what they believe.
Yes.
Was there anything in particular with him?
Well, there was one man, he was a friend of my father's, and he got hurt in one eye, and he said that the doctor wanted him to get it out, and Dr. Webb, or Father Webb, said never remove a living thing, and he never got it out, and he died with the eye intact. And there was another man that did believe as well, told me, a Gorey man.
Yeah.
But then, of course, and people that do play put medals and things on it there.
Do they still?
Oh, they do.
Do. Good luck with it.
They do, and flowers are still put on it.
Father Webb's grave?
Yeah, on the left-hand side going for the moat.
Okay.
Near, as I said, he has, you know, the symbol of a priesthood on the...
Yeah. And
when he died, I was about 11 or 12, I think, that age.
Right, I didn't know that now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Did you remember? Sorry, go on.
He was a curate in Ballyconnew and he didn't want to leave it, apparently.
Right.
And then the bishop, you have to obey the bishop, so...
Yeah. And where's Ballyconnew? That would be Ballyuctor would be the parish, was it?
Wood. It would.
Yeah.
And then he lived up in Mount Alexander.
Yeah.
And people went to him. I know lots of people did go to him.
Right.
There off the Gorey Road there.
Yeah. Yes. Was there a holy wells around here?
Well, we called a Hawitian well down in the woods rather than, I think it was a well just for the people that lived on Lord Courtown's estate.
Right.
But we went as well after, it was Sunday afternoon sometimes to there, like.
Yeah.
Now they might put money in, we put stones in, the money was a bit scarce for firing in the well, like.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there was any.
Yeah.
That was wells for water, certainly, like it was a well even on Brian's Borough.
Yeah.
It was being covered in now and it hadn't been used. Brian Kenny's Borough, I mean.
Yeah.
But it was just for getting water out of.
Yeah, for drinking.
For drinking.
Yeah. To be holy wells, St. Patrick's in Donaghmore, and to be a few Ballygarrett.
Yes.
Tresk and place like that.
Well, Ala said that he'd landed in Donaghmore, St. Patrick.
You heard that, did you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he could have. You see, it's all along the coast there.
Yeah.
For that.
So what did you hear again? You heard it? St. Patrick landed in Donaghmore, was that right?
Yeah, well, he used to say that. A lot of people believe that.
Yeah, we did as well growing up,
Yes, for that.
We'd ever told as well, because you're not too far across to Wales, we'd ever told you could see the hills of Wales in a clear winter's night or day.
Well, if you were up on Tara Hill, you would be able to see some hills. I don't know whether it was a Welsh.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I climbed up there about twice.
Up Tara Hill?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you could see across on that clear day.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
You were told on Cahor Castle you could see Wales in a clear winter's day.
Probably could too.
Yeah.
It's just not that far apart.
No, not all, no.
For that.
No, not far apart, no.
Not far apart.
No.
But no, I think we went for blackberries now. I think it was a bit of an excuse, but we wanted to see the top of the hill.
Yeah. Did you have the blackberry man here?
Oh, we did. Had the blackberry man.
Yeah.
All the women got perms after the blackberry man.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I think his name was from Jim Morris or something from Ballyconnew.
Good Lord.
Yes.
So all these...
everyone went to pick blackberry. I think they were used for dye rather than jam.
To worry, yeah.
Yeah, which might be just as well. There might have been all sorts of berries going in.
Green berries.
Yeah, they wouldn't be too particular.
And a bucket of water then at the end to top it off.
There was a man up the road here used to cut him with his shears.
Did not.
Well, he brought home the briars, you see, and then he got all the blackberries off him.
He did not.
I won't say his name, I better not, but he was his own land now and all.
Well, that's very clever of him. Very
Yeah,
justice.
better than us killing ourselves.
Getting your arms torn, scrubbed to bits. Yeah. And so women, you get a few pence and you get the hair.
Well, yeah, I had long hair. I didn't spend a hand. I think I bought my first third-hand bike with the blackberry money. Had it.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Well, my sister-in-law got it off a sister. That a sister-in-law of hers, because and then she sold it on to me. The sister was going to England, and anyhow, when it got punctured or anything, because my father, God rest him, he put more punctures in. I suppose people didn't have glasses and things, and I used to have to bring it in on the bus to a man called Granell, lived in Esmond Street, and then he mended the puncture and I rode the bike out. There was everything on the bus those days, chickens, hens and...
On the Gorey bus?
On the Gorey bus.
Yeah.
People, and Greg the man, he'd just leave the bus running and he'd go off for helping people and everything.
Yeah.
But then they stopped all that, of course.
And was that the same Gorey bus that goes to Ballygar?
That's the same one come from Wexford, still goes.
Still going on a Saturday morning
and a Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Used to go Monday, Wednesday and Saturday.
Wednesday as well, did it?
Yeah, it did.
Did Gorey close down? Was that half day in Gorey on Wednesday?
Half day in Gorey was Wednesday, and they come out to Courtown to sit in their huts and their... half day in Gorey.
All the shops closed?
All the shops closed.
That didn't change that. That wasn't that long ago. Well, it was.
Well, long
80s,
looking back, like.
Would it have been the 1980s?
Oh, could have been. I'm trying to think what age I'd be myself.
Yeah.
But then the minute the supermarkets come, that was the end of that.
When Pettits and all came along.
Yeah, they were, so then everything opened up.
That's the way I say that, yeah.
Yes.
Because the banks just don't, when was the
Don't know about the banks now.
Yeah.
I know there was a Bank of Ireland there where, isn't it a cafe now?
Yeah.
National Bank or some bank there.
Yeah.
Where, is it Kate's Cafe now? So long since I've been in Gorey with the lockdown.
Yeah.
Right, the traffic lights.
Yeah.
That was a bank.
Oh, I know the place. Right.
And then there's a bank at the top of the town.
Yeah. That's gas, isn't it? Wasn't it? So people from Gorey would come out then on their half
day. They'd come out on the half day.
Out to their shacks.
Out of the yacht. Or maybe just walk along the sea and might buy an ice cream and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Come here, I won't keep you much longer because I could talk to you for hours.
So, I didn't, I think I must have took after my father. My mother was a very reserved person, so I made up for her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And come here to me, you know, the place here, come here to me, Riverchapel, Courtown, it's changed quite a lot in
oh gosh, yeah, well Courtown was the fishing village, the herons and all had come in and they worked for Lord Courtown sort of.
Yeah.
The Riverchapel looked on themselves and independent. Did they? Yes.
Yeah. Would they be beneath working for Lord Courtown or didn't?
Well, no, I think a lot of the men, like, they went into navies and things, and maybe up this way. Like, they did have a man that made barrels and things before my time, called Nicky the Cooper or something. Yeah. And then the others, another man was a fishmonger. They seemed to have their own trades and things. In Riverchapel.
Oh, right.
Was a different, and then poor Dermot Dunbar used to say they had to be hatched, matched and dispatched out of Riverchapel.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, because you had to be baptised, you see, married, all church weddings those days, and buried from there. Oh. So you had to be hatched, matched and dispatched. And the border, I think, was a place to call the Tinker's Bed. That was the border.
And where was that now?
It's this side of the Crazy Gulf.
Oh, that's
there was a lot of rock and all. The travellers used to stay overnight. Well, you see, the rock came down one night, so they had to, you know, put the wire things.
Oh yeah.
To
stop it rolling more.
Yeah, to stop it from falling out on the road, like someone could have been killed.
Yeah.
Travellers would stay overnight there. And
the Courtown lads and the Riverchapel lads would meet there.
Well, it wasn't an official stop now.
Did they fight, would it?
No, I never remember any. Only sometimes if a person said, oh, I'm from the Riverchapel, you know, they'd say it's sort of a different territory.
Yeah, that's gas now. I never knew that. There was a big difference. Jesus, yeah. And was there ever, I won't keep you longer, was there a pub in Riverchapel years ago?
Well, there was that, there was one down where the Dunbars, sort of, they call it a sheebie in Biddy Dix.
Yeah.
There was that now. I was very young that time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a pub because people lived in it, do you know. But before, maybe my father younger days now, was a sheebie.
Sheebie. And was it Biddy Dick Redmonds or who was it?
No, just Biddy Dix.
Biddy Dix, yeah. Yeah.
I don't never seen a photograph. I do remember it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It was attached?
No, I think it was galvanised.
Yeah.
Because I know that my brother, that when he was, before he went to England, him and his wife lived in it, like it wasn't a pub then.
Yeah.
And then it went, what happened to it then was the Dunbars bought it. They used to be living up in Ardmine and they borrowed that, and they bought the whole, and it was a shop.
Yeah.
But Tim the postman, his wife had lived in it. It was always a house in my time.
All right.
Always.
All right.
And it is still there, but it's, I think, the Dunbar's garden or something like.
Yeah.
And then the other pub in my time, what was Jimmy's, was known by a man called Jordan was his name.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd have to call him Mr. Jordan and be very polite, and of course only men were in it now.
Yeah, because women weren't allowed in the pubs.
No, they wouldn't. I think there was snugs and things in Dublin, but I can't see any women who wouldn't go in then anyhow.
Yeah.
It was only when the Dublin women come down that women started.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it had excursions from Dublin. They were the first women like that.
Yeah.
Went into the Courtown Hotel and places.
Are you serious?
That time.
The local women didn't do it.
No. Well, they might now at Christmas go into a place like and have a small port or something.
Yeah.
O'Connor's a Gorey, my mother and a neighbour went in like.
Yeah.
And they brought me and my brother lemonade, so that would have been a long time.
Jesus, it was awful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Poor women were second-class citizens back then.
Well, they were different, like, they had their own domain, like.
I know.
And then the Whelans owned that pub down there.
Yeah.
They owned it, and they were nephews, I think, of the Mr. Jordan.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Kinsley had.
Yeah. Do you ever remember him talking about being churched years ago?
Oh, I did. I think even like there's some married women living around would have been.
Yeah.
Yes, wouldn't be that terrible then to go. No. I like, obviously, as I said myself, not being, but I did know about it, like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's gas. I never would imagine. I imagine it was some of the Dublin women came down. They went into the pubs.
Yeah, well, that was a big thing at the time. They looked down on these people like that, and that was only a 1-day excursion. Yeah. The buses would come down to and that was actually they went to the Courtown Hotel for their enjoyment.
Yeah. And do you remember did the bona fide travellers come out of Gorey on a Sunday?
Well, my lot might be my father's, and they came from Ferns on bikes.
On a Sunday?
No, only the 15th about once a year.
Right.
And I went to the Skipper's Holiday Inn. It was a Tara bar that time.
Yeah.
They didn't drink in the Riverchapel here. There was only my father when he got a bit stiff and wasn't able to walk that he went into there. But no, they went to the Tara and they had their bikes like.
Yeah.
And they just sat up like, and then my mother made another bit of bread for the breakfast. They didn't get big. They didn't get big feeds or anything like. It was more liquid refreshment.
Yeah.
We didn't have any drink in the house now.
No, people didn't.
No, there was no drink. There was a wake or something. Drink was gone. Both my parents were waked at home.
Were they?
And drink came.
Wow. Did they have the pipe for smoking then?
Well, yeah, they did. My father smoked a pipe, like.
But at the wakes, they were seen passing around a pipe.
I don't remember. I think he died quite suddenly, like.
Yeah.
And they both died at home.
And they were waked at home.
Waked at home.
And drink and to stay up.
Drink. They did stay up. I lay down for a while.
Yeah.
But they did stay up all night.
Yeah. They'd stay up all night just. And did you ever see? I came across people saying as well. They used to play cards on top of the corpse.
No, well, I have heard of that, but we My father did play poker 45 and all those things, but he went out to car drives.
Yeah, yeah.
We only had cards for children in the house like this.
Yeah. Used to play 13.45 for turkeys and all as well, or for Christmas.
Christmas up in the community centre, the Grey Hoist drives.
Do they still do they?
Well, they did till the COVID, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I only made the tea.
Yeah.
I only made the tea.
Yeah. Yes. There's something to think there about even, God, sure, when you're there, like, we talk about funerals. Was there anything unusual with funerals? You know, for example, down in Dunamore years ago, there used to be a little bag of clay left on top of the coffin. Was there anything unusual down in here? Knowing someone had died, was there?
Well, I put a bit of clay in with the when the person went down in the grave.
Throw a handful in.
They did, and I actually got a bit blessed because my brother was buried in the Channel Islands. Now, he talked about coming home, but at one stage, but he had a son and 2 daughters there, and their mother had died, and we thought it was better, to let her go with him, because they'll never meet.
Yeah.
And I got a small bit blessed, and I put it in. And I can tell you it was very different, and the lovely clay in the Channel Islands was so sandy, and then this bit of Macklemore went down, but I did it anyhow.
Good woman, yeah.
I did it anyhow.
Yeah, you went over for the funeral, did you?
We did, myself and my sister.
Yeah. And
I've been there a few times.
The Macklemore land is different, isn't it?
Oh, it surely was.
Yeah.
It was
yellow clay. Do you use the yellow clay here?
Well, there's something up in the brickyard there. They made the bricks with it anyhow.
Yeah.
I think it's just marl.
Oh, marl, yeah.
Yes.
Marl, yeah. Did you have marl holes here?
Oh, we had marl holes in the fields.
Did you go fishing in them for roach?
Oh, we don't think the most we caught, myself and the 2 young fellas up the road, was the odd eels.
Oh, yeah, there were eels in them, weren't there?
There were eels in them.
On the bottom.
In the bottom was eels.
Yeah, I heard that.
Saw a few tadpoles, and that's all right.
Yeah. I go to Ballygarden now and again, still bring the little ones fishing in the marl holes. Show children with boats. Yeah. They're still fishing, some of them.
In some of them.
Yeah. Little fish,
Well, I don't know whether anything lives in the river below my garden.
Right, yeah.
I haven't investigated that in a long time.
Yeah.
What they used to.
The Brian Og.
Or Brano. Yeah,
okay.
It could be either of those.
Lord, that's good now.
But when my nephews, one of them was only a year younger than myself, and they came from England for the fortnight, should have lived on the rivers, and the parents was taking them to the sea, and the minute they come home to go for the river.
Yeah. And tell me this, with weddings years ago, we were talking about funerals. Did even things like in funerals, I'm talking about actually when we go back to funerals, clock stopped. What do you ever think you'd seen someone's house when someone
Well, I did know to cover the mirrors.
Cover the mirrors, yeah.
And he opened the windows to let the souls
out, yeah.
Although there was plenty of drafts in those houses.
Yeah, so they go anyway,
but anyhow, they did do that.
Yeah.
Don't think anything about the clock. Let's to put cloth over.
Do you ever see him putting the shutters up different ways in the windows?
Never came across a house with shutters.
Oh no, I mean like maybe a public house or...
Oh, the pub, they always did, and even lately in Gorey you'd see them in the supermarkets and all. It's not that long ago they closed the shop doors and all.
Yeah. Yeah, Gorey still observes it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And it stopped going down...
Stop at the crossroads.
Stop at the crossroads, yeah. All the way down, do they?
Well, Handy Crossroads they used to stop.
On the funeral?
On the way to Ardemine, though the last one I was at, it kept going. I stood at the crossroads because you couldn't be allowed in the church or anything, with the COVID, but that kept going that time.
So where's the crossroads there?
Up from me where you turn to Middletown. It wouldn't be a real crossroads now.
There, we're up past the supermarket?
Yeah, yeah.
And would the hearse normally stop there?
Normally stops, but lately I've been in the church, so it could have been stopped a good while ago. I always went to a funeral if I could, but then, you couldn't go now with the new regulations.
Did it say a prayer called the De Profundis?
Oh, it was Latin Mass in my time, and the High Mass, all different priests would come and sing.
Did you have high money, high mass, low
No,
money?
well, they said that,
mass,
yeah.
No money, no mass.
I heard of that, all right.
Yeah, if you came from a for
Yes.
some people didn't get a look in.
And then I remember when they didn't have a mass, when someone said the rosary over the graves. I was about 4 for that.
No, that wasn't for everyone. That was for the
Poor people, yes.
Because I remember that myself, hearing that myself all over Wexford.
Yeah.
The poor people, the priest wouldn't come to the funeral.
They used to, someone said the rosary.
Yeah, someone.
And the women said the rosaries in the house.
Yeah. Now I've heard that. Now it's funny you say
yes.
that was awful.
For that. The distinction in death.
Oh, completely, absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The bell ring there now when we're talking about it, but that didn't sit right with some people.
I was at those. Well, one anyhow. I remember, like, you know. I think I can only remember the one.
And who would be called to say the rosary?
Well, there was this man, he'd gone in, I think, to emigrate to England too, and he'd gone in, he knew the De Profundis, he'd learned a bit of Latin, and that was his sole calling, I think, to it. Yeah. And I was very young now, about 4, I think. But I remember standing with my mother, and as I said, he was the one that said he knows Latin. And heavens knows what else he said, but I remember the start of it being the De Profundis.
Yeah.
And I do remember the Latin Mass, of course.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And sometimes the priest might bless a handful of soil.
Yes.
If you're lucky. That's gas. What was the man's name? Can you remember?
That died?
No, the man that said the De Profundis locally.
Oh, Dennis O'Leary was his name. I think he has died because there was relatives looking in the graveyard, and I said, well, Ballygarra, I think, has records. I met him at the church one day. Yeah. And he lived down Kiltennel some other way, like. Yeah. But I think it was his grave he was looking for, like.
Yeah. Good stuff. And then come here, when we're down with funerals there, I won't keep you much longer. Was there a certain day, were you ever told never get married in May? You ruled the day.
There was a whole lot of things, wasn't that?
Yeah.
May, and well, I remember never cast a clout for May days out.
Yeah. That means don't get out, you
stay in your clothes and this May you want them on you.
Yeah. Was you ever told about the cold stone in the water?
No.
No. Or were you ever told certain days to go swimming in the sea? Or certain months?
Well, I don't think you're supposed to swim in May anyhow.
Yeah.
For that. But no, I don't think now I can remember, but to be honest now, I haven't swum, I never could swim. Yeah. I bathed in a Up Nancy Day about when I was 6 or 7, I think. Yeah. And after that, I was more inside woman.
Yeah. Sure, our people couldn't swim by the sea.
Oh no, and in my generation, like.
We were the same.
Yes.
My mother was afraid of the sea.
See, well, my mother didn't see the sea till she was 12, she told me. And they told her there was all these white horses. And that was the big waves, and she was looking for the white horses. And she only lived in Ballycanoe, like.
Lord.
Yes. Of course, we are going back now.
I know.
You're going, if our youngest child is my age, like, you're going back.
Jesus.
No, definitely was never cast a clout till May days out. Yeah. I think you weren't supposed to whitewash and do a whole lot of things, but...
If you whitewash me, you'll wash all your look away.
And
wash your family away.
Yeah, but there's something about those, alright.
It was loads around me.
Yes.
Loads around me.
Had it.
Yeah. Were there any places around here where the places were haunted as well, whether you believe it or not? Was there any place where you were told, don't go there, to be a black horse, black dog after you, or don't
go there? Ardamine Lane was supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a horseless carriage went up and down it.
You serious?
Oh, it's quite serious.
Yeah.
But, as I said, my people worked like and they never saw nothing in it anyhow.
Yeah. Oh, a horseless carriage?
Yeah, no, a headless, what was it? Headless coachman, I think.
Headless coachman?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had that down in Ballygarra as well, on the back road down there.
Might have been the same one.
Oh, same fella, yeah. Or a black dog. We never told us a black dog out.
Yeah, black dog were supposed to be unlucky too.
Out on the road, it'd be.
Out on that bit.
Yeah.
Well, then there was no lights on the road either, of course.
Yeah.
So you know, any figure or anything could.
Your imagination would fill in the blanks, wouldn't it?
Yes, with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had plenty of time to imagine things.
Yeah. 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 Jeez. Yeah. Good. I could talk to you for hours. I'm trying to figure out other stuff I'll ask you before I go. I'll let you go on with your day.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out now. God, let me see it all. I love the story of the Blackberry man and the women getting their hair done.
Oh, the Blackberry perms are called.
Yeah, and come here to me. So people then, the Dublin people and all, they'd all go home around August or September.
Well, you see, when the school, was one stage, we'll say the man was always working, of course, and he'd come for the weekend, and the wife and the children would stay on in these houses. And we used to have parish bazaars and things, and we used to be delighted because people would buy books that didn't mind what age, and women would bake, and they were delighted. We made a great lot. Yeah. And so did the Church of Ireland. They both had different dates for them. And you see, life was simpler then. Yeah. You know, they didn't have all the gadgets, and there'd be a queue outside to get into these. Yeah. Yeah. So they'd stay, but they would have to go. Then the schools would have to be got ready, and children for school and all those things. And the summer at the end. Yeah,
the summer then, what was it like going back into the summer, into the winter, was it?
Well, it got quieter, but not as... Of course, there's, you know, more cars, there'd be less traffic, and people that, you know, they let out, like when my family emigrated, for instance, lots of people did this. Up in the Middletown there was a chef, like, so she let out the spare room, like, to the chef. And in her earlier years, when there wasn't laundry, people would take in the laundry and do it. This is how they got money in the summer from there. And lots of people let, you know, maybe there'd be 3 maids or something, you know, housemaids, and they'd be delighted to be down and know where to stay in the hotel and pay for them. And the Tara ballroom was open, and should have loved to be, they weren't so lively the next day, but should have been young, they were only 17, 18. And everyone got money out of it, one way or the other.
Yeah. And then the season, that ended, nobody now...
Goes on.
It'll be much longer. People come up and drive up and back and drive up and back.
Well, they wouldn't that time, like.
No.
They wouldn't that time.
No, that's only...
That's in reason. Well, it'll be a good while now if you look back. The mobile homes, I think, started. Yeah. That started then, like.
Yeah. And you'd slip back into your winter then.
Into the winter then, and they'd have things up in the community centre there, you know. Yeah. All those things would come back, like.
Tell me this, was Halloween actually a date for you to just, as children?
Well, they went around and dressed up, like. There was no money in at that time. They give you an apple, could be green, and give you stomach ache, and you might get a few sweets and things.
Did you call it a Vizard?
The Vizard night.
Is that what you call it?
That's what they call it.
Vizard night.
And then some of the older people did have in the farmhouses, like, is Molly here?
I think there's someone waiting to come in.
Molly is waiting to come in.
So we better finish up. So Halloween, did you call it Vizard night or Vizard night?
Vizard night, how to spell V-I-Z-R-D.
That's it, Vizard.
And you made them out cornflake packets because you didn't have it.
Bit of cardboard,
Cardboard. Yeah. But they did have house dances, certain, you know, one that played the melodeon, the grown-ups would go to that. Yeah.
Did you have a Call Cannon that night?
Oh yeah, that was a great thing, Call Cannon. It was a fast day before the holy day, you see.
So you wouldn't be no meat?
No meat.
And tell me this, then, with your Call Cannon, there's a few lovely, Mammy home, we used to have Call Cannon growing up. Did you just put money in your Call Cannon?
I think that was in the barn brack.
Okay, we put money Call Cannon in
as well,
and the barn brack.
I remember it in the brack, like, but not that.
Call Cannon.
Not the Call Cannon.
What did you make a Call Cannon with? What was the ingredients?
Oh, I think there was different, anyhow, it was non-meat dish anyhow, so there was...
Spuds?
Cabbage chopped up.
Onion? Put a bit of parsnip in it. Well,
if we had one in the garden, I think everything went into it.
Whatever you had,
that was in the acre below.
Exactly.
Yes.
Come here to me, I better let you go.
And Molly's waiting there.
She is, yeah.
Yeah, Molly's waiting patiently and I'm still talking.
Okay, thanks a million for that, Bernadette.
Well, you're very welcome. She can censor any of it. Do you think she's...
Oh, that's a bit of it. Thanks again, right?
Okay, you're welcome.
I think if I lay dying in some land where Ireland is no more than just a name, my soul would travel back to find the strand from whence it came. I'd see the harbour in the evening light, the old men staring at some distant ship, the fishing boats they fasten right and left beside the slip, the sea wrack lying on the windswept